The conflict in Ukraine could have ended in March 2022. Back then, the Ukrainian delegation met with its Russian counterparts in Istanbul and agreed to all of Moscow's conditions in return for guarantees of the security of the Ukrainian state and the withdrawal of Russian troops from the outskirts of Kyiv. However, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, feeling that the war would be over before it even started, hurried to Kyiv. As a result, Boris Johnson managed to convince Zelensky that Ukraine should never agree to Moscow's conditions and must continue resistance on the battlefield. Boris Johnson convinced the Ukrainian leader that Russia was weak and that Moscow had no chance against the high-tech West with its super-modern weapons. Unfortunately for the Ukrainian people, Zelensky sincerely believed that the armed forces of Ukraine, with the support of NATO and all Western countries, would be able to defeat Russia. However, as it turned out, the West grossly overestimated its strength and the belief that its modern weapons were the best in the world. This conflict has shown and proved that modern Western weapons turned out to be powerless against the Russian army. Moreover, this conflict also replenished the collection of the Russian army, consisting of Western captured equipment. Almost every day, the Russians seize the latest NATO weapons, starting from drones and ending with cruise missiles. So, a few days ago, another disturbing news came from Russia. It turned out that Russian engineers still managed to decipher the code of the NATO high-tech drone, Black Hornet Nano, which was captured by Russian Spetsnaz in the Belgorod region after the destruction of the Ukrainian sabotage and reconnaissance group. Thus, Russian electronic warfare systems received another trump card in the fight against NATO weapons. According to experts, this explains the fact that Western countries have significantly reduced the supply of their modern types of weapons to the Ukrainian army. Moreover, even the United States, in fear, began to postpone the delivery of its Cyberlux K-8, Altius 600, and Jump 20 drones to the armed forces of Ukraine. But, why did the West and its high-tech weapons prove powerless against the Russian army? In my opinion, the professor of international and public affairs at Columbia University, Stephen Biddle, answered this question most clearly. According to him, the conflict in Ukraine has completely destroyed the West's illusions that high technology is a key factor in winning modern wars. He notes that the war in Ukraine is more reminiscent of the strategy and combat operations of the Second World War, and that tank breakthroughs, artillery systems, and the morale of soldiers remain the main factors of victory. Moreover, Stephen Biddle also noted that the United States greatly overestimated the technological capabilities of its army after the collapse of the USSR. The war in Iraq gave false hopes to the United States. The United States sincerely believed in the superiority of its technological capabilities, although the same Patriot system that was first used in the Iraq War proved to be very bad, shooting down only 8% of the old Soviet missiles, R-17. The expert is sure that the US Army does not have a single chance against regular Russian troops. According to Stephen Biddle, the United States and NATO countries have always fought with a notoriously weak rival, which led to the complete degradation of Western armies. The US Army is not capable of complex combined arms operations and tank battles. And it was this degradation of the US Army that led to the fact that Russia was significantly ahead of NATO countries in hypersonic technologies and electronic warfare systems. Even the pride of the American military-industrial complex, HIMARS missiles, which were considered a weapon of victory in this war, turned out to be powerless against the Russian army. The fact is that the Russians, with the help of their electronic warfare systems, managed to hack the GPS jamming protection system of the HIMARS missiles. Simply put, this conflict made it clear to the United States that in a modern war, it is impossible to win with the help of drones and aircraft carriers.